And that's the thing. The question I think now is more about Milroe and his readiness to go play Texas, because obviously that is the biggest game of the year so far. The focus of the entire nation is going to be on Tuscaloosa this weekend. How do you think Milroe performed in that first start? Well, I guess it's not his first start of this season.
Yeah, I think kind of in a way it's his first start because he took all the first team snaps. I mean, he started other games, but this program's kind of built for him now instead of somebody else and just scheming for a game. I mean, this game's going to be huge for Jalen. As far as how he did this week, I'd give him an A. I think he made good decisions. He kind of floated a ball. I mean, you can kind of tell how well he did because the critics are picking he floated a ball to the right sideline, one thing. But, I mean, he threw some money shots. I thought the one they called pass interference on was going to be his best throw of the game. That was a deep pass that was going to be a score. Beautiful ball as a dime. And, of course, his first touchdown, I was impressed because he was staring into a massive hit, stood in the pocket and took it. And also the fumbled snap. I mean, he did so many things. I mean, everybody's going to say it's Middle Tennessee State. The naysayers will. But, I mean, you saw the athleticism. You saw he does have a good arm. Texas will be a different animal. And I imagine it's going to be pretty emotional for him, right? Remember, he was committed to Texas when he flipped to Alabama. So there's a lot of little things happening in this game. And obviously just a huge game from, two of the traditional blue bloods.
So how do we assess Alabama's offensive line? Because that was the question going into the season, is how will this group block? Can they control games on the ground? And obviously, again, it's Middle Tennessee, but what'd you see good, bad, indifferent from that group?
Yeah, I wanted to see the offensive line get more of a push, just man-to-man, sumo wrestling, chest-to-chest, moving people. I do think Middle crowded that line. I think there was a lot of, we're not going to let them beat us on the ground. That also opened up a lot of those deep passes for Milroe in that game. But I think the offensive line did okay, not as well as I think they probably wanted to do, because we've heard, make them quit and all that kind of stuff. Still work in progress, but you can see the talent out there. Proctor had a good game. He's only going to get better down the road. Again, though, if you want to establish the run, you're going to have to be a little bit more physical. I know Wolf, that's exactly what he's recruiting for and he's coaching for. And Texas has a good defensive line.
Well, and that's the thing. Do you think they're going to see loaded boxes until Milroe just shows, hey, I can beat you with my arm?
Yeah, even loading the box, I mean, he can beat you with his legs. He gets outside of that containment. I mean, we saw that on the snap. It's game over. I wouldn't want to be a normal human defensive back with Milroe streaking down a sideline, dropping my shoulder in on that dude's thighs, So he can beat you in a number of ways. But I think if I got to pick my poison, that's probably what I do until proven otherwise. We're going to take away the run, see if he can beat him, beat us with his arm. We saw that with Jalen Hurts a lot. But I do think that yesterday was a good sign of how comfortable he is. You saw a lot of the team behind him. When you saw the reaction when he scored, you saw the sideline, you saw the defense, you saw his teammates. So he's got the support of them. And you saw what a leader he is, because he was really happy when Buckner got in the end zone, really happy when Simpson scored. You saw him celebrating with them.
How much of him winning that job was him kind of owning the locker room as well?
Yeah, I don't know. I know the people like him. I didn't get the same vibe. I think we've heard nothing negative. Let me be clear. Yeah. And it's kind of normal for Alabama not to hear the quarterback owning the locker room per se, except with a guy, say, Mac Jones. A lot of times the Alabama quarterback's a little bit closer to Nick than he is his teammates as far as who he communicates with. You can see him standing on the sideline. Milroe was very popular with the guys. He's popular as a person. So I know they want to win after last season. So I think it was easy to get behind him. I haven't heard anything negative, but I haven't heard the same vibe I got from like a Mac Jones, who's the main one during Saban's tenure that we heard was so active.
Well, Mac won the team over by trash talking Saban as the scout team quarterback. Yeah, he had ample time. And he got to work with all the guys who became – he worked with all the defensive starters and then all the guys who ultimately became stars on offense. So everybody loved him by the time he was the starting QB.
No, it was true. Mac was so popular that my kids, I have social media duty to make sure there's none in those DMs that shouldn't be in them. That's not for the faint of heart, by the way. But I would often see the kids follow the Alabama players. And when after the game, when I saw Henry Ruggs celebrating, Jerry Jeudy, all those guys, those savages, the rideouts, they were with Mac. They weren't with Tua. They were celebrating. He was dancing, smoking cigars after the Tennessee game. Now, Tua probably was with Saban or probably with the media. So not to say anything against Tua, but a lot of times you hear the guys, the quarterbacks are more with Saban than with their teammates. You hear more from what Saban has to say than the teammates. Max was an exception. But Jalen did get that group together and go travel and throw some passes and do that stuff. Everyone says Jalen's a great person off the field.
So I was at the Alabama Penn State game when Penn State came down. That's the last time there's been this level of non-conference game at Bryant-Denny Stadium. What's the buzz like in Tuscaloosa about Texas coming to town?
I mean, it's amazing because you got to look at last year's home schedule wasn't nearly as good as the road schedule. I mean, most of their games, best games were on the road, and now you've got a huge home game. You got a huge home crowd. You got a new quarterback. You've got new coordinators. Texas obviously is coming in the SEC. You add Stark, Bo Davis, Jeff Banks, Kyle Flood, all were at Alabama. So there's so many connections, and I think it's over. It's going to be overwhelming. It's been a while. I think the last, and I'm not sure visitors have changed, but you remember back in the day, Alabama played, hosted the game, maybe LSU or somebody, and everybody in the country was there. People were, stars were visiting, every recruit was there. I think this is going to have a similar vibe, which is hard to do now, especially with recruits because everybody's fighting so hard to get them on campus. But no one really talked about Middle Tennessee State. They all talked about Texas leading up to this.
Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.